Welcome back to the Product Operations Summit. Before we get going with the next session, we would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for helping us bring this awesome event to your screens. And don't forget, you can access even more content from past and future events on demand by becoming a PLA member. Head on over to productledalliance.com for more information. Enjoy the next session.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. Hello to those who have just joined us, and welcome back to those that have been with us throughout the day at some of our previous sessions. I'm joined here today with Diane Soller, who's going to be talking to us about making the case for product operations for PMs and EMs. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Diana.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ruth. And thank you to the Product-Led Alliance community for organizing this great event. Ruth, you've been an amazing partner along the way. So yes, hello, everyone. I'm Diana, coming to you from West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm actually visiting family this week and soaking up as much heat as I can before returning to my beautiful home in Montreal, Canada, where we're bracing for a chilly, long winter. It's been a bit rainy, as some of you may know. Tampa, it's getting hit by a pretty powerful hurricane as we speak. Where we're located, it's only rainy, but I don't expect any connection issues. We'll be fine.
Awesome. So Diana, how did you get into product operations?
Yeah, great question. Let me just go on to the next slide. So I started my professional career in business development for Luxury Retreats, the world's largest luxury vacation rental company. When the company was acquired by Airbnb, I pivoted my career and became Host Success Program Manager, where I stood up a small team of customer success specialists for Airbnb Lux. And it was in this role that I learned what product management was and fell in love with the process of listening to a customer's needs and collaborating with the design team, the engineering team, and the product management team to design, develop, and launch a solution to address our customers' needs and solve their pain points. I was in this role for several years until COVID forced me to introspect and decide if I wanted to stay in a customer success role or if I wanted to commit to a product-centric role. So in April of 2021, I took a leap of faith on myself. And again, I pivoted my career and joined AppDirect as Senior Product Operations Manager to build and establish their product operations function. In this role, I was a team of one and was responsible for creating policies and procedures to promote operational excellence through the product development lifecycle, in addition to optimizing alignments, communication, and processes between the product team and the rest of the organization. A lot of what I will discuss today was inspired by the work that I did in the 1.5 years that I was at AppDirect. And finally, in July of this year, I joined Ascent as their Director of Product Operations. In my role, I have the privilege of growing, shaping, and managing the product ops team that supports all areas of the product organization. Currently, the team is 6 members strong, and we are growing in the near future. I'll take an opportunity to share a little bit more about Ascent. So Ascent is on a mission to make the supply chains of complex manufacturers deeply and durably good. We are the leading supply chain sustainability management solution dedicated to helping complex manufacturers bring responsible products to the world. So from electronics to medical devices to aerospace, our software technology provides a view of supply chain sustainability from environmental regulations to human rights concerns. It's also the first North American company to achieve both B Corp certification and advanced status with United Nations Global Compact. This reflects our commitment to embedding sustainability across organization as part of how we drive positive impact for our communities and the customers that we serve.
Amazing. That's a really great experience. So thanks for sharing that. Could you tell us a little bit more about what does Ascent do and what does product ops look like at Ascent?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll move on to the next slide. So product operations has existed at Ascent for several years. However, until recently, it sat under product management. It now stands as an independent function reporting directly to the Chief Product Officer. So it sits beside the rest of the product teams. Unlike most other organizations where product operations sits at the center of product management, engineering, and customer success, I believe we're all familiar with that diagram. At Ascent, the product operations function partners with and supports all of the product teams, including product engineering, product design, product management, product support, and product infrastructure. We also collaborate daily with the customer-facing teams, which includes our professional services and customer success teams. And of course, we partner with product marketing and other key stakeholder groups. Work closely with the product groups to ensure they have what they need from the product organization. Our mission is to drive cohesion and enable the product teams to be more efficient through orchestration of people, process, tools, and information. What this really boils down to is that I look at how the product teams are operating, for example, how we plan, and also I look at how the product team works across the organization. So for example, how do we provide the customer-facing teams with product knowledge so they can answer their customers' questions? At the end of the day, my goal is to ensure the product teams are working well in and amongst themselves and to ensure that they're great partners across the organization. With regards to what our focus areas are and responsibilities, I'll just quickly walk you through this. So our first focus area is product enablement. This includes product team onboarding with the goal of ramping up new joiners as quickly as possible with the most comprehensive product and company knowledge as possible. We also partner with the product leadership on continuous professional development for the product team members with the goal to continue upskilling the team and increasing the talent density of the team. And finally, we partner with our learning and development team as well as other enablement functions across the organization to build a robust product enablement program. Second is product operational excellence. In this bucket, we focus on product planning and prioritization. This is fairly self-explanatory. And product lifecycle phases and transitions with a special focus on release readiness, adoption, and eventually deprecation. And third, our third focus area is product enablement and collaboration. This is the most cross-functional area of work, and here the product ops team is responsible for the end-to-end product communication plan. So what we're communicating to who and how. It needs to be the right time, the right content, the right audience. We also look at information management. So this is a library of product knowledge and documentation accessible to all employees within the organization.
Awesome. If you could tell us a bit more about what inspired you to select this topic for discussion today.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I selected this topic for my session today because getting buy-in from product managers, engineering managers, and also design managers is something that we tend to overlook as we focus on establishing the product ops function and getting buy-in from leadership and teams across the organization. We also focus on growing the teams and scaling the function. However, without the early buy-in and support of these stakeholders, these key stakeholders, our job and the job of a product operations team member is going to be very challenging. When I first entered the world of product operations, I fumbled in this space and big lessons were learned, which I'm here to share what I learned and how to avoid making the same mistakes that I did. As we know, product operations as a function can be disruptive, and as we introduce new processes and frameworks or change existing ones. And we also know that people don't like change by nature. So the puzzle we face is how can product operations enter an organization with a well-established product team and get buy-in from those that we, product operations, will impact the most. I realized that while leadership understood the value that product operations could bring to a growing product team and scaling organization, the efforts of product operations would not be successful if the individuals doing the work day to day and changing their ways of working did not see the value and buy-in and adopt. Therefore, in the early days when I was a product ops team of one, I shifted my efforts in showing the value of product ops from leadership to and the other teams across the org to the individual team members that would be impacted by my work. And those were the product managers, engineering managers, and designers, and of course, other members of the product team. So I'll reference 3 initiatives that I worked on early in my product ops journey. These projects were large, cross-functional, and involved several product teams. The first one was the adoption of Jira as a road mapping tool. My goals were to create a consolidated roadmap view for all the product teams, and that anyone in the organization could have real-time access to what the product teams were building. In return, this alleviated some of the frustration among leadership and the cross-functional teams that comes from not knowing what product is working on and access to that information. The second initiative was restructuring and redesigning the quarterly planning process with the goal to introduce uniformity and adoption of best practices across all of the product teams. We introduced a new Epic write-up template and created a dependencies review checkpoint, among other activities. And in return, this increased the level of confidence in delivery for the solutions selected for development in any given time frame, and we better communicated with customers, both internal and external. And third initiative was the redesign of the Voice of the Customer program, with the goals to improve communication and collaboration between the customer success team and the product managers, as well as to improve the feedback loops between the company and the customers. We redesigned the process to improve documentation, we applied a response time to the product managers, and a response time from the customer success manager back to the customer. And in return, we saw many more customer requests get attention from and get prioritized by the product managers. And then we saw less skepticism among our customers about our Voice of the Customer program. So these 3 projects I described, you can imagine, required significant buy-in and adoption by the product managers and the engineering managers, among many other team members. So though the benefit was clear, the lift to get these initiatives in place was significant. And these individuals had the power to slow them down or outright stop them, and consequently impact the product operations goals. So after I selected these projects to work on, and I completed my scoping phase and created my project timeline, it was time to share with and get buy-in from senior leadership team. This was easy to do because the outcome and the value was clear to them. And I had the data to support our prioritization of these initiatives. We had a low NPS score. We had high number of undelivered planned items. We had low engagement and collaboration scores between teams and more. The hard part came when it was time to implement these changes. Looking back, where I made the mistake was that during my scoping and planning phase, I spent a lot of time speaking with other teams across the organization about their pain and listening to their ideas of how to fix the root cause of the problem. So for example, the product marketing team expressed frustration with how the product managers were communicating what they were going to deliver in the next quarter. It was too feature focused, and instead product marketing wanted the product manager to speak about the value to the customer. Another example was listening to the customer success manager describe how they had to request the release plan and roadmap from the individual product managers and would receive various sources as some of the product managers use Google Sheets, others use Product Board, others used other tools to roadmap. So when it came time to implement these well-scoped initiatives, some of the team members that had to adopt these new ways of working were definitely not warm to the idea. I should have listened to the product managers and gotten their side of the story before applying a response time to the voice of the customer tickets. I could have spoken to engineering managers earlier on to understand that each Scrum team had their own Jira board configured differently. So it was some of these missteps early that I realized product operations can be more intentional in how we work with and get buy-in from these key stakeholders before moving forward with everything we do.
Amazing. And before we go to the next slide, could you tell us a little bit more about exactly how you get buy-in from these teams?
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually will move on to the next slide, which it has the 6 steps to success. No. So some of the advice I can provide, again, based on the experience working on the projects that I just described, will help product operations people establish trust and get that buy-in from our key stakeholders, product managers, engineering managers, and design managers, aka the product trio. So the first one is to listen. On a regular basis, I will meet with members of these teams and do a listening discovery session. Once I've gotten approval from their managers, I schedule 45 minutes and I use that time to learn about their day-to-day work, what tools they use, what processes they follow, what documents they reference, and slowly I get a better understanding of their pain points and needs, but also I gain their trust and they gain familiarity with me and my goals. As the relationship develops, I also use the time to show them what I'm working on. I'll have prototypes ready of the work I'm going to propose, and I'll walk them through it. I put myself in their shoes, and I'll use reference personas to describe what I'm talking about. So for example, if I were a designer or if I were a developer, fill in the blank. I'll also speak of use cases. So for example, as a designer, I want to add my work to the sprint board so that we can review it during sprint meetings. Once I've shown them the proposed solution and walked them through the journey, I'll just ask for honest feedback and they always have something to propose to make the product operations solution better. The truth is I spend most of my day just listening to others. The second tip is tools. One of my operating principles is to remove redundancies and simplify where possible. This includes using existing tools at our disposition and exploring their functionality to fit our needs. Side notes, in the past, I've seen some designers in one Scrum team use Figma and the other designers on another Scrum team use Lucidchart for prototypes. And this really drives me a bit crazy because as a stakeholder, I had to flip back and forth between these two tools and guess what I was looking for among their giant libraries. And yes, this is a problem that product operations can tackle. So keeping in mind my operating principle, when selecting tools to use for my work, I ask the team members what they use. So for example, I adopted Jira Advanced Roadmap for myself and my team and my team's work instead of a project management tool like Asana or Monday.com. So when it came time to show the product managers a prototype of how to use Jira for roadmaps, I simply showed them my roadmap in Jira. I actually unveiled it during a 4-hour quarterly product planning session where all the product team members, product managers, engineering managers, tech leads, QAs, designers, they were all present. And I used the plans view in Jira, and what they saw on the screen was very simple and minimalistic. My 2 objectives displayed as a legends issue type, and then clicked on the legend and the 4 initiatives that rolled up or that were associated to that larger objective rolled down. I then clicked on the individual initiative and then the epics associated to that rolled down. They could also easily see when the quarter that work was going to take place was. For leadership members present in the planning session, I wanted to show a different view by quarter instead of by goal. And so with one click, I was able to pivot views, and I literally heard gasps in the room. They loved it. They bought into it right away, and we successfully adopted Jira Advanced Roadmaps as our product roadmap tool. An added benefit of using their tools is that it's forced me to learn new tools, which of course that's a transferable skill. And I'm now using Jira for all the work that I do. A third best practice would be language. I try to speak their language as much as possible. And by this, I mean adopting terminology that they use day to day. So for example, the work of my team is organized in sprints. We tackle tech debt. For example, this could look like migrating work into a new tool or consolidating all work into a single tool. We also talk about the why and the customer pain. We do discovery work by speaking with our customers, the product managers, engineering managers, customer success people. And we design our solutions and show prototypes such as storyboards and FigJam. We measure adoption in the form of how many team members used our templates, and we iterate and enhance on the thing, whether that thing is a process or a template. So as you've heard, we've adopted very standard product language, and this helps us with attention and engagement when we are presenting our ideas. The fourth is co-create. So I won't spend too much time on this one because I spoke about it at length earlier. The key takeaway here is that you should partner with your key stakeholders and co-create the new solutions or programs, even if this means giving them access and having them create the mock-up and just let them take the driver's seat. They will be much more excited about the solution if they have had a direct hand in designing it. The fifth best practice is to find allies. There are a few moments in my journey in implementing some of my initiatives, particularly the implementation of Jira as a roadmap, where I didn't have the buy-in of some of the directors in product. And while I attempted to speak one-on-one with them to understand the concerns and objectives and to better explain my why, this was still not getting the agreement I needed to move forward. So I enlisted the help of two of my closest allies. Both were directors of engineering and had been with the company for several years, and therefore had the trust of the product directors. I had worked really closely with these two in engineering to design the solution, and they were big supporters of getting the product managers to adopt Jira. So they helped me reach my goal of getting 100% buy-in from the 5 directors of product that I was working with, and brought in these two, and they helped help sell the idea. I observed how they communicated. I observed how they answered questions, and I learned a lot. And most importantly, I learned that we need allies to help us amplify our ideas and push our product operations mission and outcomes forward. The sixth and final is very important. You should identify your naysayers early on and use them. Definitely don't ignore them or alienate them, because they can be great at helping you identify potential blind spots. During the redesign of the Voice of the Customer program, one of my naysayers kept pushing the same topic over and over. I scheduled a 1-hour review session with them, and he walked me through his journey and pointed out to me a gap in the process that I was proposing. It's something I would have never seen myself, nor would have any other person been able to point it out. So since then, I would go directly to him to sanity check anything related to this initiative. And in the end, he was accepting of the process change. Though it meant more work for him, he understood the value, and it was because he felt heard and his experience was respected. So there are other best practices that will help you get buy-in with key stakeholders: setting expectations, clearly communicating your why, giving a clear reason for what you're proposing, using data to support your vision, be explicit about the benefits, highlighting value, being consistent, being flexible. All of that will help. And that concludes my session. We can move on to any questions that have come in from the audience.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We have some great questions already. Feel free to pop some more in the chat if they come to you. So the first one: would all stakeholders in your organization have access to your roadmap in Jira directly? How do you export it in a format that makes it simple for all non-tech stakeholders to easily consume your roadmap and feedback on it?
Yeah, great question. So in the previous organization where I was, yes, everybody in the organization had access to Jira, but we made it simple in that we would create the plan. I would save the custom view depending on what the audience wanted. So whether they wanted to see it by goal, by quarter, by year, what have you. And I would send that link to them. All they had to do is save it in their bookmark bar and click it, and it would land them in there. And it was real-time view. So it was always that test, like the 4 a.m. test. If the CEO woke up at 4 a.m. and wanted to access what the teams are working on real time, then they could. If your organization, if not everyone in your organization has access to Jira, then there is a way to export it. It's a normal standard like export, download, CSV, and you can just share that around. I mean, I wouldn't exactly advise in doing that because it's not real time. There is a way to embed the link so that Excel captures the real time, like the updates on every 15 minutes or so.
Amazing. How big is the product org at Ascent? What is the level of adoption in using Jira across PM/engineering? Can you share any challenges you had in getting the buy-in?
Yes. So the product organization at Ascent includes product engineering, product design, product management, product support, and product infrastructure. I've partnered closely with the director of quality to implement Jira roadmaps. So the experience that I was talking through earlier was what I went through in the previous company where I worked. But thanks to that experience and thanks to all those hurdles and thanks to stumbling on my own, I now know the best way to get that buy-in from across so many teams within the product org. And I'm already socializing that idea outside the product org. Does a customer success manager want to access Jira? So I'm currently doing the work.
Amazing. And then we have +1 for one of the previous questions. I'm very curious on the output and format from Jira to stakeholders to make it digestible. I'm not sure if I think we've kind of covered that. How did you measure the impact of these product ops initiatives?
Great question. Yeah, and that's something that I've always found challenging. And anytime there's a webinar or a podcast about how to identify success measures for product ops, I'm the first one to sign up because it is challenging. So in the previous organization, we measured in 2 ways. The first one was the product manager sentiment. So I worked with product leadership to understand how we could measure that sentiment. And it was a survey that we would send every 6 months. We grounded the product managers on the activities that they were working on and what they wanted to work on. And if we could see, okay, last survey, they said they want to spend less on triaging customer support tickets and more on professional development. Did we see a shift in this? And if yes, then were they happy? Yes. So that was one of them. And that was something that I created. The other one was sponsored at the company level. It was an engagement survey that we sent out every 6 months. And it was basically the teams across the organization providing their feedback on what it's like to work with the other teams. So I would look specifically at the collaboration scores for the product managers. It was every 6 months I could look and see, okay, did we address the pain of the customer success team? Did we address the needs of the product marketing team and our professional services, et cetera? So those were the 2 that I've had in the past. I'm in week 10 at Ascent, and right now I'm still working to identify what those success measures are for my team.
Amazing, thank you. So the next question, most of the sessions I've kind of heard about product ops function in kind of scaled companies. Would you give any advice to developing a product ops function in a growing startup with 100-ish people working, 15 people product ops team, but a single product ops person, which is me. I'm trying to build the function and have some concerns on the buy-in process, because when it's a small team, most of the tasks that product ops can adopt is already being obtained by other stakeholders, i.e. PMs and PMs.
Yeah, great question. I love this. And I've actually, if you would have asked me this 6 months ago or maybe a year ago, my answer would have been different. So I don't think it's ever too soon to start a product operations function. My advice to any product ops professional building the function, whether it's a large or small company, is to establish your mission very early on. Establish your focus areas very early on and your responsibilities, and then share that as frequently as possible. So I'll join every team across the organization, their all hands or their weekly meeting or whatever, and make my voice heard. Also, in a lot of ways, you're taking ownership of work from some of these teams that they don't really find that appealing or that much fun. I tend to find a lot of these puzzles fun, while others think it's a headache. So it's all how you frame it and position it to them. And if you can consolidate as much as those efforts as possible under product operations, then that's great. I'm actually going through that right now and consolidating what is product enablement under one umbrella, because there's like 10 teams doing that right now.
Amazing. There was a lot of support for that question, a lot of people experiencing a very similar thing. So hopefully the conversations and support for that can carry on LinkedIn as well. I've got another question. What would you advise to do in organizations that are not mature enough to have EMs yet?
EMs as in engineering managers? Oh.
If someone could confirm, I would guess so, yes.
Could you repeat the question?
What would you advise to do in organizations that are not mature enough to have EMs yet?
Oh my, I have to say that question's tricky for me. I've kind of heard the reverse, where companies first hire EMs and then hire PMs. I've seen that. I won't dare answer that question, to be honest. I haven't thought about it. I don't want to give a wrong answer. I can't. Yeah, that's a tough one. You know what? I divided my calendar. So feel free to schedule 30 minutes with me. And I'm going to think about that question and get back to you. That's a good question.
Awesome. Can also, we have a Product-Led Alliance Slack, Product Ops Slack channel. So feel free to pop it in there as well. I'm sure we can address it between the community. I've just lost my place. Sorry, 1 second. What are the PM's biggest pain points?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So what I've seen them is encounter they spend a lot of time on activities that aren't really part of their core responsibility. And for example, triaging customer support tickets, or updating documentation, depends on the type of update. And they don't spend enough time on activities that they do want to do, like speaking to customers or in discovery, which is one and the same, or professional development. So I would say that those are the biggest pain points that I've seen, as well as continuously getting interrupted or distracted. As you know, if there's 20 customer success managers, then they might get pinged 20 times with the same question every month or every quarter. Where's your roadmap?
Awesome. I think we have time for just one more question, and then we'll have to continue the questions on LinkedIn, I'm afraid. Did you get to solve the Figma v Lucid chart thing yet?
In the previous organization, yes. I was a collaborator in this one. It was really driven by a manager of design. And in this one, no. But it's the same problem. And I will add that to my backlog to tackle probably in Q2 of 2023.
Amazing. Some people are asking, oh yeah, share the Calendly link. Amazing. So thank you so much. It's been a really great session. Thank you to every single person who has tuned in today. It's been such a good session. We still have a couple more, and we also have a few more events in the pipeline. So hopefully to see lots of you again soon. But thank you so much, Diana, for such a great presentation. And thank you to everyone who has attended.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and for attending and for your questions. Please stay in touch. You have my LinkedIn, and now you have my Calendly. Just add time. I'm an open door. I love to talk.
Amazing. Very generous. Thank you very much.
Thank